What's good? This is Kelby Kennett, publisher of Makin It Magazine, founder of the membership, and we are live with Michael Matthews, founder of Digital Radio Tracker. Make some noise. There we go. That's much better. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing all right, man. How you doing, Kelby, out there in the ATL?
Doing excellent. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm currently in Houston, Texas.
In Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
That all makes sense. Everything makes so much more sense.
This is the Houston ATL connection today.
Yeah. So here's a for those who are unfamiliar with Digital Radio Tracker, could you just lay out what the company does?
Well, Digital Radio Tracker is one of the industry's leading broadcast monitoring companies where we track predominantly digital radio stations streaming all around the world. We're currently tracking more than 5,000 stations. No station is too big, no station is too small. As long as you have an audience, we're tracking you and being able to give you a voice within this industry. So it's a beautiful thing. We're looking for more and more independent broadcasters to add. We're looking for a lot of independent artists to be able to get their analytics, be able to understand how to read DRT reports, be able to utilize the information, and being able to monetize their careers. So that's what DRT is currently doing.
All right, and so here's the beautiful thing. What I love about what you do is because you're serving two needs. Because there's a lot of independent radio stations that online radio stations, community radio stations, but there are a lot of stations that have an audience, but not necessarily the largest audience. And with that, you're giving them some validity and some data and a voice in the industry so that a person can actually go see that. But then at the same time, you have a lot of independents who are out here who are getting some spins and doing these promo campaigns and doing these things, and they're getting spins on these radio stations. But it's like you're also giving them a sense of accountability, and then some to actually be able to take and show people like that they're getting traction and that they're getting spins, rather than it just kind of going out into the ether.
Exactly, and that's really what DRT was really created for, because a lot of artists, especially here in America, they don't even realize their music is being played all over the world. Right. We're in a global music industry now. I mean, if your music is being played in India, in Russia, in parts of Europe, you want to know that. You want to be able to monetize that. People are using DRT reports now and saying, hey, wait a minute, I didn't even know there was stations in some of these territories playing my music. Therefore, maybe I need to reach out to them and set up interviews, be able to monetize, sell some merchandise, reach out and continue to build their fan base in those territories, maybe even set up shows. So these are things that are vital, that we look at DRT adding value to the industry. We don't want to take things away. We want to help people build. And today's market, we're in more of a DIY society. So a lot of these artists are out here doing things, hand-to-hand combat, trying to figure out how to get put on. And the best way to do it is to have those analytics, is to be able to know where your music is moving. We're in a global music industry now. We cannot stress that enough. So you can't just think about your local market anymore. You have to look at it. Your music is going everywhere. So that's where DRT was really birthed from, was being able to track your music and being able to understand where your music is moving, because now people are posting music on social media. They don't have a clue what's going on with that song. Is traveling everywhere. So we started looking at various ways to be able to bring that information to that individual, to that label, to that independent artist, to that publicist, to that manager, to be able to better monetize their situation. So it's very, very important that you understand what your music is doing out here.
You know what, that you brought up something I think that's very critical. And just and I'm gonna frame it like this to give an understanding of the landscape to a lot of the independents. Like when it comes to like the online radio on that side of things, there's not a lot of money to be made for the stations because there's so much competition in it, right? And with that being said, a lot of that it's an ancillary thing that someone offers. The person who started it may be a DJ, they may be a promoter, they may have other things going on, and there's someone who really just wanted to be able to create an additional platform. So they're going to be a lot more open and receptive to playing new music. And a lot of times they might find your shit and they may be playing it and you have no idea. But then you also, on top of that, miss out on that relationship for the other things that they do with these shows that they're booking or clubs that they spin at, because you never knew that you were getting played.
That's right. And that's most important. What a lot of people don't even realize, a lot of these digital streaming radio stations, a lot of those programmers, they don't have the politics of the terrestrial FM stations. Some of these guys actually work or mixers and things at terrestrial FM stations. So it's a good way to get your music even introduced. Let them be able to test their music at the digital radio level, get some feedback on it, and you never know, you might even end up on one of their mix shows on the commercial FM station. Or like you said, some of these stations are the same promoters that are bringing artists to that local market. So whereas years ago, a lot of people used to overlook digital radio, it's now a part of our everyday life now. So there's a lot of people don't even realize there's more than 100,000 digital streaming stations globally. DRT is not even tracking them all. We would love to one day be able to track them all, but there's just so many out here. And so we look at it as a growing sector that if we all work together as we continue to build a community, it's really a win-win-win for everyone in this industry.
Yeah, and that's what, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on and have this conversation. I think it's important for a lot of the independents to realize. I think that was one of the things where, and I think it's really evolved, because when you like online radio, especially like the digital station with online radio, because it was like, oh, it's just online, and it's like people wasn't really grasping it. So it had like this kind of negative connotation. But then it was like what I would always explain to clients that I work with, because I'm like, yo, I would rather get played where I can get played than, not where I can't. Like, people be worried about FM and you're not getting played there. But then it's like, what I would explain is like, if someone's listening on a digital station, online station, here's the beautiful thing. They chose to go to that station. Like when you get in your car and if you're listening to FM radio, like whatever station, how often do you change the station in your car? It's just like you turn it on. It's more of a passive listening experience. It's playing at work. It's, but if I'm going on to an online station, I've typed in a web address, I've pulled it up on TuneIn. I'm a little bit more of an active listener. But then here's the thing with the metadata that's being provided when they're streaming, and I'm one click, I'm already at a device. That's right. I'm right there for a link for a ticket sale, merch drop, or to go follow you on Instagram, to add you to my Spotify playlist. I'm already at the point of sale. Versus terrestrial radio, they're not. Like I have to pull out another device. I'm driving right now. I'm not about to. How many times have you heard a commercial that you actually cared about, an event or something, and they said the website one time or the number too fast, and it was like, it's like on the radio. And so it's like, that's the beautiful thing with the digital stations, is a person is right there at that point of sale. And so that's one of the things where I always push that.
Well, think about it, Kelby. I mean, just 10, 15 years ago, we weren't talking about the consumption of music through smart speakers, through smart refrigerators. Who would have thought you would be able to get introduced to music from a refrigerator? These were things that we saw happening with technology. And at DRT, we said nobody's monitoring it. Think about it. Do you realize there's 150 million cars on the road now that don't even have CD players in it anymore? They all have digital radio. So it's becoming more of an everyday thing in life, where whether we want to embrace it or not. I told somebody just the other day, I said, just 20 years ago, the word streaming didn't even exist in the term that it is now. And we use it every day now, because nobody was streaming music. Nobody was streaming anything at the time. So it just goes to show you how it takes a short period of time of how technology can evolve. That's why it's very important, if you want to stay relevant, for all the artists that are tuned in right now or even watching a rebroadcast of this video, you have to make sure you stay up on your technology. You have to make sure that you understand that we're in a global music industry now. There is no audience big or small. It's no longer about that local demo, that, like you said, Kelby, that local FM radio station. Nothing against them, but think about it. You might have a digital streaming radio station that is playing your song maybe twice as much as the commercial FM, but there's listeners all over the world. So you're creating and building a fan base even faster, and you're able to monetize your career that much more than just if you're only capturing a local market. So it's a different way of thinking that we have to adjust. Being in this industry, it's no longer about, remember that saying, Kelby, you've got to capture the 500-mile radius of your hometown?
Yeah.
Well, what is your hometown now? It's really the globe.
Right. You know, and here's the thing I would say, like, in taking that old adage into today's, it's really, I say, so many independents never play at the level they want because they won't play at the level they at. And so they want the FM, they want the hot 97s, the 107.9s, but you're not there yet. And so it's like taking advantage of these platforms that you have access to build up equity in your career, to build up the streaming track record, to get those reports, to show that you have an audience and grow your audience at the same time by networking and plugging in with these different stations and showing and proving. And so, like, that's the whole thing. One of the things where I think it may have been last year. No, it was like at the end of 2019. I think we partnered up and we did promo with you for the members to do a set of free reports for the members, for them to be able to pull up. And we had a few members that had no idea that their songs were getting played on some of these stations and started reaching out to them. And so, I know for a fact how it works. And so.
Exactly. And Kelby, I just add to that, one of the beautiful things about what we created at Digital Radio Tracker is we're the only broadcast monitoring company in the world that gives you free access to the database. So you can go on Digital Radio Tracker right now. You can click the search button at the top. You can literally put any artist, any song title in that you want, and you will know if it's getting played for completely free. If you see it come up, means it's got airplay on it. If you don't, it's not getting any airplay. So it's that simple. Whereas everyone else wants you to pay subscription fees and those types of things just to even access. Most of these artists don't even know if their song is being played or not. Right. And in some cases where you're putting out, you guys, and there's probably artists on this call right now, they're putting out mixtapes with several songs on it. There's multiple versions of songs being played. And before Digital Radio Tracker, a lot of these songs weren't even being tracked. So you might have a whole mixtape, a whole album full of songs that are being played, whereas DRT is tracking all of the songs, whereas other monitoring companies may only be tracking what you have encoded with them. So it's a big, big difference. So there's a lot of other additional value, and there's a lot of dollars that are being left on the table because you then have no proof of that airplay. There's no third-party verification. We don't have any skin in the game. We don't own these labels. We don't own these artists' product. We don't own these radio stations. So for us to be able to report, or for a performance rights society to be able to get the data from us, they're able to say, well, wait a minute, okay, there's no skin in the game. If you're getting played here, here, and there, then you have a right to demand that royalty check. So we have helped so many artists that weren't even getting royalty checks from Sound Exchange, from ASCAP, BMI. Just literally, they were able to take that DRT report in there and argue and say, hey, wait a minute, we have proof that we're getting played. We have a right to get our royalties. So there's a lot of money that used to be left on the table that we're playing a vital role at people being able to claim that revenue, and it's helping a lot of these artists grow and monetize their brand even further. And that's what we love about it.
No, I just went to the site while you was talking. I just typed in the artist and just seen them come up. They got a song that's playing right now. Remember, I'm like, yo, do you know your song is getting played? Like,
Exactly. That's my point. There you go. And of course, you know, if they want to know where it's getting played, how
yeah,
many times per day, what version, then sure, they would have to purchase that DRT report. But at
yeah.
least they have more knowledge than they had yesterday.
Right. But even with that, it's a report for the song, but like it shows in the search result, like it would come up with the various songs that I'm seeing. Like so you would see which songs are already getting some play. So that's
Exactly.
definitely
And one of the unique things, Kelby, that we created, because obviously we come from a radio promotion background, so we understand a lot of the ins and outs that the independent artists, you know, they're doing songs with features on it, for example. And
right.
you might have spent a good little change on having a feature, and
Yeah.
you need to know if that song with that feature is getting played or if your original version is being played. Well, until DRT, all the monitoring companies were always merging those songs together, those versions. Well, at DRT, you can get a DRT comprehensive report, and Kelby, it will break down not just what time of day the song was played, it's also going to let you know what version of your song was played. So it could have been a version that you had with Rick Ross on it, and then you might have a version with Drake on it, and then you might have a version with nobody on it. And you're
Right.
able to see all of those versions, so then you're able to know as a label head or as a manager or even as an artist, you say, hey, look, was that feature really worth what I paid for it? Are people really feeling that version? Is it getting played? It's so much information once you have it that if you're utilizing it the right way, it can help your marketing. It can help you save money. It can help you figure out what's working and what's not as you put new music out. So those are some of the things that we try to make that's very unique about what we do, that we say, hey, it adds value to your overall marketing campaign as these independent artists are out here, what we call a DIY society, right, Kelvin? These guys are
Yeah.
all out here trying to figure it out. So they need as much analytics as they can get to know if they're even going in the right direction or what.
But here's another thing is the analytic side of it. All right. So one of the things artists, you have a record and you pay for that email blast or that influencer repost or to have it serviced out. And so you have it serviced out to all of these DJs and these radio stations and all these places, but you don't, unless they supply the feedback, unless that DJ like, let me email you and let you know that I'm gonna use this record, or maybe they just download it because yo, I like it, and they listen to it. They may play it at the club a couple times, and it's like, yo, I'm gonna add this to rotation. And so you don't get that information. So it's like that's the tricky thing, like, because a lot of artists end up spending good money after bad because they have no controls in place to monitor whether or not the spins are good, the money that they're spending, how effective it's being.
There you go. Exactly. And that's why it's called the business of music. It's not called the music business. That's what we all use as a street term. It's called the business of music. It's the business in the beginning of the day. It's the music at the end of the day. So you want to make sure that you're taking care of your business. All the artists and labels that are watching this right now and tuning in to Kelby and myself, we can't preach that enough. Take care of your business. Make sure your music is, let's just start with the beginning. As soon as you leave the studio, make sure your song is tagged properly. That is so important. Kelby, you mentioned earlier when you're in your car and you're able to now see what's being played. That's
Right.
called the API data stream. That's what DRT is tracking. If you're not tagging your music properly and embedding it, there's no way that nobody's going to know what you're playing. Who remembers or who wants to play a song called track one, right? Or
Right.
unknown. There is no DJ going to do that. So you want to make sure that your stuff is tagged properly, and through that, when it's being played on the radio, you can now see who's being played, who the artist is, what song title it is, and in some, depending on what kind of car you got, Kelby, you can even see the artwork.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of things that are being used now with technology that 20, 30 years ago we didn't even have. We didn't even have to worry about it. You could send an MP3 out called unknown, and it got played, and everybody knew who it was.
Yeah.
It no longer works that way. So you have to make sure that you're taking care of the business end first, and everything else will fall into place.
You know what? You bring up something, and this kind of goes into a broader conversation of that I think is interesting, like how people love to pick and choose what aspects of the industry that they like that
Yeah.
changed. Like people like, oh, you don't need the label no more because you got all this technology and you can just stream and you can do all that. Okay. But then there are these other things where you got to accept all the stuff that comes with that. So you got to be so like, yeah, you could have just, sent out an MP3 back in the day and it got a better chance of getting played because guess what? You was probably one of 5 emails that person got that day. But now, like, I'm on 20 different email lists and everybody's sending me
Right.
links and people in my inbox and all that stuff. You got to present yourself with a certain degree of professionalism to separate yourself from the people who aren't presenting themselves like that. And I think that gets into something I also love, like with the reports, right? But you also have the DRT plaques that you guys are doing.
Exactly. These plaques, you can actually see some of them in this room that I'm in above me. The DRT plaques are some of the highest standard in the industry. We pride ourselves on it. We wanted to have some of the best looking plaques in the industry. Why? Everybody knows plaques are associated with major artists, but how often are the independent artists being overlooked? And we wanted to make sure that they can get a certified plaque too. We wanted to make sure that they can have something on their wall that they can display their success and enjoy a lifetime of memories, just like these major artists do. Why not? You work hard. This is your creativity and so forth. So many times what we're doing is we're waiting on others to validate us instead of saying, no, wait a minute. You know what? This song may not have streamed 50 million streams and I might not have won 20 Grammys and so forth, but I am somebody. And that's what DRT stands for. We're the people's brand. We want to make sure that you're recognized. We want to make sure that you'll be able to show your peers and things, look at what I'm doing. And we look at it as a stepping stone, if anything else, because we all know the reality, Kelby. 99% of these artists will never win a Grammy. They'll never win a Billboard award. They'll never do this. They'll never do that. But can they get access to to a DRT plaque? Yes, you can.
But here's
we
the thing.
wanted to be able to say, hey, it's not a free-for-all thing. There is requirements, and you have to at least start it for 1 week. But we want you to know that you can be recognized, that you can then have something to be able to show your peers and things and let them know that, look, you're making moves. These are beautiful plaques. They're 100% Italian wood framed. They're double pane glass. There's a lot of things, high-resolution printing. To make sure that you understand, we want you to have something that's going to last. There's so many plaques in the industry that a lot of us have had that fall apart after a certain amount of years. The color fades in the printing. All these types of things take place because it's just a basic plaque. Nobody's taking the pride in it, and we always try to look at it as, you know what? You know why people want a Rolls Royce and why people want a Mercedes, Kelby? Because those are like handcrafted cars. Those are things that people took pride in to make sure that they were made to perfection. And that's the way we took pride in the DRT plaques, is we said, no, we want to keep them at an affordable price, but at the same time, we want to make sure that you're getting quality. And that's what it's about for us here at DRT, is quality, because we want you to feel good about it. This is your career. This is your livelihood. We want you to know that you are somebody. So we appreciate, those that have those plaques. Please, if you don't have one, check them out. Go to digitalradiotracker.com. There's a lot of mock-ups on there. It's a very creative process that we do, but we want to make sure that independents are getting recognized, because there's a lot of great music out here, Kelby, that's not even seeing the light of day.
No, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit.
Okay.
I'm going to disagree with you a little bit because it is seeing the light of day. That's why they qualify for the plaques.
There you go.
You see what I'm saying?
That's what this conversation is about.
And this is what it comes down to for me. It's like, and this is one of the things, like with what we did with the website, with us doing the PR engine and helping a lot of the artists with our members and stuff with building their brands is this. I did an article. It took me damn near a year. It took a little to write this article, but it was like, because I was trying to get my thoughts together and explain this, but it's like we measure, like you have units of measure. You feel me? Like you don't measure how much you weigh in miles. You feel me? Right? Mm-hmm. But you can't measure length in miles, right? And so you get the right unit of measure, but then you can still be measuring at the wrong scale. Like I can measure I would measure the length of my iPhone in centimeters, not in feet or yards. And so
Exactly.
like, and that's the problem that most independent artists face is they're measuring their stuff in the wrong unit of measure. They're
I
measuring
agree
their
with you.
success in millions of streams, but you ain't got millions of dollars or as a budget. So you're measuring yourself
That's right.
in this unit of measure of the industry, but you're
Hmm.
independent. And so like
That's right.
that's what I love about what you're doing with the plaques is you're scaling down the unit of measure and saying like, yo, there is something here to be recognized.
That's right.
You charted, you
That's
got played on these stations, and this is like, and so it gets to this thing where a lot of times cats don't beat their chest because they feel like it's a small accomplishment, but it's never a small accomplishment. The problem is
that's right.
there's it's not a small victory, it's a silent victory because you don't speak
Exactly.
on it. So
Hmm.
if someone charted at #1 on your indie chart,
Hmm.
guess how many people didn't chart that week at #1?
There you go.
All
That's
the
right.
rest of them.
And,
so
exactly. But
so
also,
it
Kevin, what a lot of artists got to recognize is that that's what charts do. It separates artists. So
yeah.
they have no idea the amount of every week we have almost every major label is looking at our charts. We got distributors looking at it. You've got managers. You've got other artists and things looking at it.
Right.
So just getting that visibility is like you're saying, it's all steps adding to those big steps, to those long steps that people want in their career. So it's all added value at the end of the day. But I love how you put that, Kelby. It's how you measure it. Success
Right.
is measured. It's relevant to the individual. I told someone the other day, I said, remember back in the day we used to sell CDs, right? To just think. If you told somebody you sold 20,000, 30,000 CDs, to one person they'll say, well, you're not platinum, you're not successful. But to that person that sold that at $10 a piece, they
Yo,
300 grand.
to my accountant,
Exactly.
I'm good.
Exactly. So yeah, they look at that bank account, 6 figures. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. So it's
Definitely.
all about what's relative to the individual. But I always want to emphasize this, that it is a business. It's just like, it's about relationships. Me and you, Kelby, have built a relationship in this industry, but we just don't call each other just to be calling. We respect one another. When I call you, it's about business. I
Right.
know you're a businessman, so I'm going to come to you correct. And I'm not going to come to you like, hey, Kelby, I'm going to waste your time.
Right.
And that's what I want to emphasize on this call today is that you have a lot of artists out here. They want people like us to take them seriously, but they don't take themselves seriously. They don't take this as a business. They don't
No,
realize people's time is valuable, man.
I'm gonna
You
pick
could
up
be
on
doing
that.
something else right now. I could be doing something else right now,
I'm
but
gonna
we're
pick up
giving
on
back
that
what
real
we
quick.
do.
And
Yeah.
that's another angle for the plaques. Like all those
Mhm.
people, like, so when you do chart, when you do hit X amount of streams or spins, like for you to be able to take not just to get a plaque for your wall, but look at the top 10. Who was that first DJ who played it in your market at the club? Who reach
That's
out
right.
when you get that report and you see which stations have been playing you to be able to present them with those plaques and bring
Exactly.
them in and make them part of the story. And then here's what you're doing. You're also creating content because
That's
if
right.
I buy this plaque and I ship it to you, you're going to post it when you get it to
There you
your
go.
followers. I'm going to repost it and I'm creating more content, more story, more exposure. And it's like
Exactly.
creating this perfect storm.
And not just that, to add to that, Kelby, these plaques are showing up everywhere. They're in studios, they're in major label offices, publishing company offices. The amount of people that are able to come in and be able to see it. That's why we say
Right.
display your success and enjoy a lifetime of memories. But one thing I will add to it, Kelby, because I'm not even sure if you know about it, we're the only plaques in the world that use augmented reality technology. So in these plaques, we're also able to embed your video. So now it's a conversation piece unlike no other. So you're able to pull your phone out or any device, scan the plaque, and it'll play the music video. So now you can got a room full of people in a studio or office talking about like, hey, check this out. It
Mm-hmm.
blows people's minds. So now we've taken something like an industry plaque and we've taken it yet to a whole nother level that
I
no other plaque in the industry is doing this.
listen. I ain't one. Listen. I didn't know that.
There you go. See, so it's an exclusive being introduced on your
it's not
call.
often that people hit me with something new like that. Like, that's a good
Exactly.
damn
So
idea.
unfortunately, Kelby, unfortunately, we're doing this Instagram live because if we didn't have our phones tied up, I would actually take the phone and I would show you, scan the plaques behind me, and you'll see Little Donald video, you'll see Natalia video, you'll see Kane Brown video will come, and that brings a whole nother dynamic to the plaque. So now you don't just have a plaque, you have a video that's embedded for life.
It's an introduction.
Even
like, so wherever it's at, like it's like someone's hanging it up, but it's also an introduction to the music for anyone who happens to be at the studio or wherever in the offices.
It's called super cool, is what it is, Kelby. Everybody that's done this thing,
hold on, one second. Let's let that marinate. Elevating the game, digital radio tracker.
Thank you. And that's what it's about. So all the artists that are tuned in, that's what you have to think about. Being innovative, being able to step your game up. Don't just look at what's traditionally going on out here. Be able to say, hey, how can I take something that's been around for 100+ years and how can I take it to that next level? That's what we're about here at DRT. We're about engaging in new relationships. We're about taking things at a whole nother level and continue to be innovative and offering something of value to the industry. Until you think about that as your career and your brand as an artist, you're not going to be successful. Once you change your thinking and you start looking at it, wait a minute, what am I bringing to the table? How can I separate myself from all the other artists out here? How can I stand out in a Makin It magazine and look differently than everybody else, sound differently than everybody else? How can I add value to what it is to where Makin It magazine wants to feature me, wants to interview, wants to put me on shows, different things? That's what it's about. It's about whatever brand that you're looking to work with, being able to add value to what they're doing. That's what ultimately DRT stands for. We're the people's brand. We're for the community. We're for everyone in the industry. We're not just worried about the major artists. We're not just looking at the new artists. We're looking at everyone in the industry. We're not just limited to a particular genre of music. We're looking at all music, rock, country, hip hop, everything we tap into, because for us, it's about the music industry that we all love. It's about being able to keep it alive. Just look at what we've been doing, Kelby, surviving through this pandemic, man. There's not a lot of us that's able to still be around, and we're still going through this pandemic. You know, it's crazy. A lot of magazines have shut down. A lot of radio stations have gone dark. Television, there's all kinds of things that aren't even there anymore. But what we also have is new opportunity for growth. So I don't know how many artists or labels are tuned in right now, but don't think because we're in a pandemic it's time to go to sleep, man. You got to wake your ass up from this couch. Get out here and start putting your hands to work. Get on calls like this. Network with people like Kelby and Make It Magazine. Support. That's the big thing that I want to stress. Kelby, you ain't got to say it. I'll say it for you. You need to support Making It Magazine. Because one thing they can say is every time I call Making It Magazine, how can I support? How can I help you? What can we do? How can we work together? And you'll be surprised that if you change your thought process, a lot of these artists is calling everybody with their hands out. Everybody's begging all the time. Instead of saying, look, how can I serve you? How can I help you? How can I help perpetuate what you're doing? You'll be surprised how many people will turn around and help perpetuate what you're doing. So a lot of this call, Kelby, to me, has got to be that these listeners and viewers that you have, they have to understand about connecting and really nourishing these relationships, because the one thing that I've learned, and I've been in the business for 28 years, is you want to be careful about burning bridges in this industry. You don't know where that person's going to be at next, who you're going to need next. You want to make sure that when you pick up the phone and you call them, and I thank you, Kelby, every time I've called, you've answered. There's not a lot of people in this industry that can do that. A lot of people, man, they'll say, oh, okay, you know what, Mike calling, let me go on and kick that to voicemail. You want to make sure that you don't waste people's time in this business. That way, when you do call, they will take your call and they're going to respect what it is that you have going on. So that's the best advice I can give to your viewers right now, is that make sure that you posture yourself where people take you seriously in this business, or as I say, hang the mic up then.
Definitely some great words to end this interview with. Before we get out of here, like, can you let them one more time, let them know real quick, run down just a few of the recent clients and some of the success stories. Cause you know, for the people that need that, you know, some people live by a blue check. Like, is it verified?
I
For
understand.
the people who need the name dropping.
We get it. We get it. And anybody that knows me, they know I'm not a big name dropper, but I will say this much. For those that are trying to understand, look, is DRT making a difference? We've got artists that have signed major deals with Def Jam, with Warner Brothers, with Universal, that have only been on the DRT charts. They haven't had anything else going on. We've had the honor and the privilege to work with artists like a Little Donald, like Jamie Ray, those artists from right there in your backyard in Atlanta. A lot of your viewers probably know who they are. That we've helped mold and build these artists' career from day one. Artists like Carson Luters, who was on the Rap Game as a guest there with Jermaine Dupri. He signed out a Def Jam to Timbaland's label, Mosley Music. He's had 7 singles on digital radio tracker charts for the last 5 years, and nobody really knew who this kid was. Now go look on Instagram. He's got like 2 million followers now.
Right.
Or maybe 3 million. I might be wrong. Indiana Macera, you know, is another success story. She's, you know, an actress out of Australia that's becoming an uprising pop star right now, and growing a tremendous base, now based in LA. These are artists, a lot of artists that have gotten a lot of exposure from DRT. Akon himself has signed an artist from being on the DRT charts. I couldn't even believe it till somebody told me. They said, you know what, Akon signed that artist? I'm like, the only thing they had going on was they was on the DRT charts. So it's very interesting what we're seeing happening in this business now, and how people are starting to look at digital radio very differently. They're starting to look at the community that we built, and they say, hey, wait a minute, DRT, they've been around for 10 years. They've been doing charts every week for 10 years. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of consistency of building a voice and letting people know that, look, hey, wait a minute. You know, these are artists that people need to pay attention to. So, Kelby, that's what we're about, giving a voice to the unheard, whether it's independent broadcasters, whether it's independent artists. It's your turn now. What are you going to do about it? That's ultimately what we're here today to say. It's your turn. Tap in, plug in, any which way, just get in, keep working with Makin It Magazine, and continue to build your brand. And at the end of the day, you can be successful in your own right.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you. One more time, let them know that website to check out.
I appreciate you very much, Kelby, for having me today. It's digitalradiotracker.com. Follow us on Instagram at digitalradiotracker. Again, that's digitalradiotracker.com, spelt exactly like it sounds. You guys be blessed and have a good day.
Once again, that's Michael Matthews, Digital Radio Tracker. Y'all make sure y'all log on to the site. Go search up your music. Make sure and see who playing it, if it's being played. Hold these people accountable and connect with the ones who are supporting. We up out of here.